Hey, sisters and readers, matriarchs, dissidents, everybody who believes that there could still be a future. This is Esmée Streachailt. I am reading a post called How Big is Our Dream to you from Medusa Rising, World Building Women, where if you know some women who are running some organizations on this planet that want to connect and help support each other and spread the news of what we're doing, let them know that I'm here. We would very much like to share their work with our readers and with anybody else who manages to find us one of these days. We are behind in the game of organizing. And it's necessary that we are. We're women. We're under-resourced everywhere in the world, even in the United States where I sit. And that is a trend that's probably going to continue. Resourcing ourselves and each other is how we're going to get this done. And by this, I mean moving out away from, as far from the center of power as we can get, because these people are losing their fucking minds. Anyway, this post is entitled, How Big is Our Dream? And I don't know if I've started doing this by the time this post drops yet or not. Actually, a little bit of business. We're going to start putting these recordings of the posts out as little mini podcasts. So you may be finding us on Podbean or iHeartRadio or somewhere. But if you do, whip over by medusarising.org, because that's where this project lives and breathes and accepts your support and then supports you in return. I not only want to connect organizations and feminists doing the badass goddesses work, but I want to publish women who are discovering and sharing and making and critiquing and raging and dreaming and generally trying to find all the little chinks in the wall that will let us take out some of the concrete in between the little bricks and then make a hole we can get through. Okay, so here's the post. Back in the fascism series, I noted that to stop a resurgent and complexly fabricated far right, we will need a dream at least as big as their dream. We will need to dream across global regions because throwing off authoritarian regimes damages patriarchy. 2 for 1. In their dream, there is no future but collapse and war. In their dream, there is no life for you and me but service and death. In their dream, there is no need for a livable planet. In their dream, they escape to their little freedom cities and freedom fiefdoms to rule the rest of us. In their dream, they will be raptured, immortal, or extraterrestrial. In their dream, dominance, extraction, and impunity will be their law. And here I've included a video of a conversation with Naomi Klein and Astra Taylor about end times fascism. It's a really lovely discussion about the nihilism and the greed we're up against with this new generation of fascists. The next section of the post is called Come With Me If You Want to Live. Their dream is pretty well advanced if we have the US government menacing Greenland on behalf of the neo-reactionaries and tech oligarchs. Yes, the line is from the Terminator films. Yes, the joke is double-edged. And yes, we need that kind of urgency. I'm wondering, how big is our dream? Will it matter what we call it? Does it need a name? Will it matter that we live in a future that originated in feminist thought if we don't call it feminist? Everywhere I turn, the people most thinking about a way out of here are women, some feminist. And for now, I think that credit is really necessary. We've done generations of work just to maintain this line of thought, this tradition, long enough for it to be here now that everything is completely fucked up and we actually need it just to survive. The future is going to be feminist because it's not going to have a choice. We need a world-sized, femina futurist, inspiring, ferocious dream with actionable parts that everyone can plug into with her skills and ability, where we move from surviving the stochastic crises of life in patriarchy, all of these hetero male extractive systems, to structures that cannot remember that world. You can see it in the TRA rage at the UK Supreme Court ruling that said, why, yes, women are women and men are not. You can see it in the way MAGA, Project 2025, is largely designed to prod women back into service to their lords and masters and out of public life. The credit matters because these men, driven by power and porn, and often both, want to build their new world of freedom cities on top of our bodies and lives. Again. But notice that the goals of the climate justice centers, the goals of something like the Debt Collective, these are materialist feminist goals. They are ecological vitality in responsibility and socialist solidarity in the face of rentiers drawing interest on our lives and livelihoods. Maybe it does all start with community gardens. Who knows? We need to build connection and familiarity and to counter the techertainment, isolation, and fragmentation that serve these fascists so well. Maybe we can take credit after. I don't know. Naming any of these efforts feminist in their origins would damn them utterly right now. We know that. But we need women whole and human and free in that future, or it will just not work right. It will repeat this patriarchal collapse cycle again. That's all patriarchy can do. Build up, collapse. And every time it collapses, it takes millions and hundreds of millions of people with it. We need to get out to the margins and build enduring new systems for meeting needs out there. Come with me if you want to live. Maybe insurgent is the wrong metaphor. Maybe exsurgent is the way. Ademption, not redemption. I've been using the metaphor of insurgent lately. We radmat femmes need to get an insurgent mentality. Expect total resistance. Prepare for it. Obviously, that's all that's going to come our way. I've even said that at some length at the Women Create conference back in May. I'm writing this paragraph on May 19th. I draft these posts over quite a lot of time sometimes. Anyway, I'm starting to think I'm partially wrong. The expecting a fight part is right. The direction of movement is wrong. Insurgents are trying to take back territory from some other force. And I think we have no choice about that. There's only Earth One, after all. But the material level, that is, we are all in a contest for whether needs will be met and with what resources. Even thinking about a gray, parallel, virtual feminist economy in a move that will make power angry. It wants our money and labor. But on a subtler cultural level, a matter where we put our time, our creativity, exsurgent is really the way, isn't it? Maybe the center needs abandoning. What are freedom cities but hyper-capitalist communes, right? Form, wrong content. They don't want to be involved in the center anymore either. They think it has too much regulation. We think it has absolutely no soul or ability to maintain life. Right form, wrong content. Both and. Always. Everything feminists have ever done has been an impossible lift. I shared this back in May at the Women Create conference that Lindsay Fates recalls one of these lifts from her own history as a young feminist. She writes, I hail from a women's studies department that was founded after 30 undergraduate women barricaded themselves in a building at the University of Kansas on the 2nd of February, 1972. They refused to come out until the university accepted their demands for, and it was a list, an autonomous women's studies department, free daycare, the hiring and promotion of female faculty to administrative positions, targeted recruitment of young women from high school, ending sexist wage policies, and opening a women's health clinic. The February Sisters, as they quickly became known, brought enough provisions inside the building to sustain them for a week. Spurred by a wave of bad publicity and fear that these unusually angry Midwestern girls, who usually we are very polite young women, Midwestern nice and all, these very angry Midwestern quote-unquote girls meant business, the university administrators acquiesced to the February Sisters' demands within 30 hours. But it they came prepared for a week. They understood the resistance. They understood the pushback that they might get, right? The vote took 3 generations in the US for white women and nearly 5 for women of color. I imagine that putting an actual end to sexual exploitation and male violence, for example, will be the same. We haven't really started yet. Make no mistake, feminists have been doing world-lifting work supporting women as we just barely survive the many ways men make women suffer for their pleasure and self-affirmation, the power and the porn that seem to drive the male imagination now, or always, maybe. Because this is what we're talking about when we talk about male entitlement in radical materialist feminism. The entertainment and the image support, the sense of importance, the endorphins that come from treating us as resources. For this, we imprison 1% of the men who physically harm their wives, mothers, and children. For this, we imprison 2% of the men who sexually assault women and children. See, it's an insurgent move, but for these crimes, these are never going to lessen or fall out of fashion at the scale of accountability that we need, right? The other 99 and 98%. For me, the Binding Chaos Project that I mentioned back in the fascism series in the spring to end the impunity of, oligarchs and white-collar criminals and sex traffickers, frankly, Anon is very unhappy with them, includes ending the functional impunity men enjoy for the harm they do us, right? Anonymous spends a lot of time stopping sex traffickers. Sex traffickers do a lot of violence and a lot of sexual violence to women and children. Everybody, this is my dog Trouble. He is barking at the UPS truck across the street. He's sometimes a feature in these little episodes. The barking will continue. There's nothing we can do about it. He doesn't like sex traffickers either. It really is just the UPS truck. The Radical Materialist Manifesto states that women deserve serious and effective judicial approaches to violent crimes against women and children, from incest to rape to partner abuse to FGM to child marriage to honor killing, trafficking and prostitution, to the air-like ubiquity of pornography, to disappearances and femicides, including forced sex-selective abortion. Women deserve for these crimes to be clearly defined in law and to be addressed with funding, policing, and judiciary practices equal to the trauma inflicted by these crimes. Some people will accuse me of being a carceral feminist for having this thought. Again, it's the both and. This is the insurgent part, right? We need to go in on the territory we already live on and insist that it straighten up and act right. Carceral, you say. Why, yes, thanks to the wicked magic of structural racism, it's white men who mostly enjoy this impunity. Many more of them could be in prison. The powers that be will tell us that we can't arrest or imprison our way out of this problem, but I would suggest that we have never run that experiment. Many problems are not solved by the removal of a man or men from his or their communities, but the peace of a household can be restored. It can even be created by removing a violent man from our company. That is, I agree, an insurgent gesture. A drive to increase accountability for femicidal violence is insurgent. It moves into justice systems and swerves them towards women's needs and projects. Of course, the terms of #EndImpunity, back to the fascism series again, as originally formulated, take a great big whack out of men's general impunity for crimes by returning the wealthy, the ultra-rich, the corporation, the oligarch to their correct subjection to the rule of law. But the impunity of men who harm women in private, in domestic violence or sexual assault, or for profit, domestic violence and sexual assault recorded as entertainment and porn or sold as prostitution, is still one more step. It's closely related to that insurgent drive, but it's one more step needed for the liberation and resistance movements that must make that step for women. If we want these patterns of dominance and violence to change, all of our resistance movements have to take that one more step for women. So yeah, maybe we have to keep calling it a feminist project, even if that's going to make it harder for some men to accept it. The neo-reactionary and accelerationists, fans of collapse like Peter Thiel, he famously wrote a book about how to get really, really rich. And he said the trick is to go from 0 to 1, which is tech bro code for simply invent something radically new that fills a gap. Go from a place where there's nothing and create a thing. Well, no shit, Sherlock. The one more step for women is also like going from 0 to 1. We basically put 0 rapists in prison. We should put 100% of rapists in prison. The goal being re-endowing humanity its fullness rather than merely getting rich and building your own fiefdom in Honduras. The gap is out there on the margins where I think we need to go and start building. Take as much of our money away from the people in power, from the center, and go give it to each other. Go build each other. The one more step for women. Maybe it is a gray or a virtual economy. Those aren't simple things to build, but they can be done. The project of those gray or virtual economies would be the project of human becoming. This is different to technological becoming, of course. And the project of human becoming remains impossible as long as women remain a site of extraction. We cannot become more fully human while treating half the population as an economic resource due to their sex or race or the relative wealth of the nation they happen to live in. We should melt swords and cast the chalices. The ancient matriarchies had worked out metallurgy too. Metallurgy, invention, advancement, and empathy are perfectly compatible things. We know we lived like this in several regions of the earth for 40,000 years or so, maybe a lot longer. These are facts only. You can see the articles linked here on Maria Gimbutas from The Radical Notion that explain those 40,000 years and how those are facts only, folks. Thus, a matriarchy, a femina futurism, a hyperlithic. You can call it a Guylanny, I don't care. Call it a partnership system, as Riane Eisler has come to do. I think that's a pretty brilliant way to think about it. Its name is not as interesting as the idea, as the driving desire, and forgive the fancy word, the ontology. This is where the new territory can be made. An ontology is an understanding of reality and its meaning. Not just what stuff is, but what stuff is for us. And we build those in reciprocal processes with the implacable thing we call the earth or the world. And that reciprocal process is called history. And history is an infinitely complex spiral of choices and decisions and counter decisions and so on. What I mean by heading out for the margins is supporting each other enough, not just to shift an Overton window, but to shift the ontology we inhabit. From patriarchy to matriarchy. Melt the swords, cast the chalices. History can be interrupted. In fact, I think of the 5,000 years of patriarchal epoch as a matriarchy interrupted. And here I have this lovely little infographic that summarizes what I think a matriarchy is. If we shift our sense of reality and meaning beyond lip service and false piety to genuine and enacted centering of children and their mothers or other carers, we are very nearly in a regenerative and care-based economy right there. Shifting to economies that support life and vitality rather than ownership and extraction gets us very close to a femina future. This can't be a world of dominance and obedience. The work of care and life-making is cooperative and reciprocal in all its forms at every scale, from the cellular to the macrocosmic, to the cosmos, even out to the other world. How? When we start doing it and solve some problems for some people while having a good time. We publicize the work and the good time that we're having together. We share each other's stuff. We celebrate each other's work out there on the internet, in video, in the conferences that we go to. We make a big fucking deal about how cool this generation of women is, how amazing it is that in spite of the fact that we are being squeezed back out of public life by forces on the left and the right, we're still right here, ready to be in the community, ready to change the community so that it can actually support the lives of the people in it. Shocker, but that's the only thing we can do. Effect and community together. The joy that we create when we work together to meet each other's needs. It's nearly irresistible and draws new people and new energy to itself. Like I said, almost everything feminists have ever done has been an impossible lift. Going from 0 to 1 is impossible most of the time. And yet it happens. It gets done. We have done it before. We're going to keep doing it. These men, these MAGAs, these fascists, the far right everywhere on the planet, I don't care if it's being led by a woman right now, the Peter Thiels, the neo-reactionaries, these fucking monarchists with their little unregulated cities where they will own all the people who work there, right? All of their citizens will be their employees. These men are looking at a future they would rather destroy utterly, a planet they would rather live on dead than not get what they want. And what they want is more money, more power, regulatory freedom. They want Mars. They want unlimited sexual access. They want the singularity, whatever. It's all their narrow little imagination is capable of, this brutal, brutal drive to pure ideation, to escape, distance, get as far away from the mother, get as far away from our material world as possible, and take everything I want in the process, everything and everyone. Do you think there will be any free women in those freedom cities? What will be the cost of our survival there? I don't know, but Elon Musk seems to want to inseminate an awful lot of women. So I'm not interested in which strand of feminism should take priority. By God, I hope we're past all of that. I'm not interested in fights between kinds of feminists, Medusas, glaring eyes, eco-feminists versus liberal feminists, or separatists versus radicals, or grassroots versus institutional, or spiritual versus materialist, or the differences between generations and how we express ourselves, or the differences between ethnicities and our relative kinds of oppression, nor the differences between women across religions. I really don't care about those arguments for their own sake. I think the differences between us are absolutely vital. I think they can be deep, deep sources of creativity and sisterhood and solidarity if we approach them as opportunities rather than as reasons to find suspicion. At this point, all of that team making is just burning energy that we need for punching back, for surviving, for outrunning an ever more powerful reassertion of male supremacy, its dominant systems, and its extractive economics. It's fine if 4B is the movement that is going to suit you and your life in the way that you are going to pull away from patriarchy. It's fine if a more traditional form of separatism is going to serve you and your being and the way you are going to pull away from patriarchy. That is really not going to work for every woman. Should we all be interested in supporting each other in those needs and decisions? Yeah. If you already have 3 children, separatism may not be your game. It might not be practicable. That does not make you an enemy. That does not even make you a problem. It makes you a mother. It makes you the reason that there is life. It's nice to know which strands we're drawing on. It's important to know which strands and which lineages we are weaving together so that we can work that weaving most effectively, right? The effect being that we get women freer. The effect being that we create more liveliness and vitality in the world at every level. But making more teams and identities out of our feminisms is a distraction that the boys hope we will keep indulging in. Radical materialist feminism is meant to have room for all of that, all of that. The only feminism we don't have room for is the unfeminism of the collaborator kind. We don't think sex work is empowering. We don't think humanity will find its perfection in digitization. We don't think sex is gender or that gender is sex. We don't get chummy with otherwise obviously anti-woman political or cultural organizations. We give no quarter to forces that harm women. I don't know which feminist tools or strategies will work best in Gambia or Bangladesh or Romania or Turkey compared to my own country and culture. What I do know is that we should all be figuring out how to support each other across all of those distances more effectively. How to join our efforts where they overlap. How to stay out of each other's business when we're told to. These are going to be some key strategies. There's projects like the ones being run by Sasha Graham. They do exactly this. They reach across difference. They stretch the possibility of what's real. She's a grassroots builder with a really big dream. She's creating on the margins with star scale energy and galaxy scale ambition. Her TikToks are important. She's really compelling. She's insightful. She's absolutely unapologetic. But the links in her profiles to the projects she's running, that's where the real shit is. That's where the real possibility is. I'm trained as a theorist, as a kind of seer and seeker, as you can probably tell by the way these posts sort of web and loop around themselves. So this project is where my skills do their best work. I'm also trained as a poet, and that makes me a pattern finder. These are the things that I bring to the table. I'm pretty good at them. What I do know is that if we want to move into a renewed, reimagined, contemporary, and robust form of matriarchy, an ademption instead of a redemption, a melting of swords so that we can cast new chalices, then we will have to take each other's perspectives on colonialism and capitalism very, very seriously so that we can come at these powers on coordinated and multiple fronts in order to radically curb and extinguish them. Again, we may have to be insurgent, but at the same time, we also have to be exurgent. We sister cousins are all vulnerable to the many impositions, violences, and depredations of male supremacy and its entitlement, even if in differing combinations and intensities. We share two bonds, the vulnerability and our dreams beyond the systems that create them. As we say in our mission statement at Medusa Rising, we are eager to promote new feminist work on women's needs, life wisdom, ideas, culture, soulcraft, politics, art, economy, ecological work, and social movement. We want to share your insights, your tactics, your needs all across the world and all of our communities more effectively than we have been so far. Patriarchy is the interlocking legal, economic, cultural, and religious systems and its traditions that support male supremacy. It was born in the commodification, rape, and murder of women. It has existed in remarkably consistent forms for about 5,000 years. Medusa Rising means for this millennium to be its last. Let's recognize what we're up against. Let's understand the kind of power we have to dig down for. Let's thank the mother that she made us Medusas so that we can use that power. And then let's just build. Let's build outward, onward, right? Toward and beyond all of those great old words from the days when we thought there would be a future. There can still be a future. You have to keep reaching for it. Stay rad, stay witchy, Be good to each other.